Good morning. It's Saturday morning, so pour a cup of coffee and let's look at Acts 2. Today we're going to read verses 14 through 21. Those verses say, "But Peter, standing with the 11, lifted up his voice and addressed them, 'Men of Judea and all who dwell in Jerusalem, let this be known to you and give ear to my words. For these people are not drunk, as you suppose, since it is only the third hour of the day. But this is what was uttered through the prophet Joel. And in the last days it shall be, God declares, that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Even on my male servants and female servants in those days I will pour out my spirit, and they shall prophesy. And I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the day of the Lord comes, the great and magnificent day. And it shall come to pass that everyone who calls upon the name of the Lord shall be saved.'" So Peter starts off. Now this is right after we've heard that everybody's amazed at the apostles speaking in all these languages and amazed, and some are saying, well, they're just drunk. And Peter says, no, they're not drunk. It's only 9 a.m. How could they be drunk? Well, it's possible, but you get Peter's point. It's early in the day. They're not drunk. No, this is the Spirit coming out. And then we have a quote from a passage from Joel. Now, I don't know whether Peter just miraculously understood, oh, that's what it is, and quoted this passage, or if Luke put that together later, who knows. But the early church clearly saw that this outpouring of the Spirit was what Joel was talking about when Joel said, I will pour out my spirit in those days on all flesh. And many years ago, in the fall of 1980, I was a beginner student at Princeton Seminary, and we had the seminary banquet. And so I went to this banquet, and it was just in the cafeteria. It was a nice meal, and there we sat and getting to know our fellow students. And Dr. McCord, who was the formidable president of the seminary in those days, stood up and said, he read this little bit from Joel, or from Acts, I think, actually, and then he looked at us and he said, now those of you who are worried about ordaining women shouldn't be. This is what Joel talks about. And for me, that put it to rest. I was like, okay, we're not going to worry about that anymore. I wasn't worried about it before, but whatever, sort of little feelings I might have had, especially coming from churches in the South that were very skeptical about female pastors, he really helped me to get over some of that. So for what that's worth, the Spirit is poured out on all flesh, Peter says, men and women, and they will all preach and prophesy. There will be no distinction. They'll dream dreams, they'll see visions, and they'll tell us what those visions were. Even the servants will have these kind of visions. So even the poor and the enslaved and the marginalized people will be leaders and preachers in this new church. So God is always doing something new, and here's God doing something brand new. He's pouring out His Spirit on all people, in distinction from the priests in Jerusalem, who were all men, and the priests in the church later were mostly men. There were a few women here and there, but they were. It was very early, and they were very rare, and their history has been pretty much suppressed, I think, by the hierarchy in the early church. And so you have this glimpse of a new kind of community that the Spirit wants to create. And the Spirit is still creating that new community for all of us and in all of us as we respond to the Spirit's presence. Now, tomorrow is Pentecost. We'll all wear red to church. I hope you'll wear red, and we'll all, clap our heads and celebrate the coming of the Spirit. But the Spirit's coming is surrounded by all these manifestations and these weird things that happen. But what really is happening is that God is creating something new. So look for the new thing that God is doing around you and in your life. And have a great day.